Singapore has a highly developed and successful free market economy. It enjoys an open and corruption-free environment, stable prices, and a per capita GDP higher than that of most developed countries. Unemployment is very low. The economy depends heavily on exports, particularly of electronics, petroleum products, chemicals, medical and optical devices, pharmaceuticals, and Singapore's vibrant transportation, business, and financial services sectors. Singapore is a high-income economy, known for its excellent finance and a high degree of openness. Being one of the most competitive economies worldwide, Singapore is well known for providing one of the most business-friendly environments globally. Since achieving independence in 1965, Singapore transformed itself from a small domestic market economy with high unemployment and poverty levels to a highly developed free market economy through decades of industrialization. Singapore is on an extended concept of intermediary trade to entrepot trade, by purchasing raw goods and refining them for re-export to sustain its high levels of export-oriented industrialization, such as in the wafer fabrication industry and oil refining. Singapore has a strategic which makes it more competitive than many of its neighbors in carrying out such entrepot activities. Singapore's trade-to-GDP ratio is among the highest in the world. As of 2020, the ratio was 320%. The Port of Singapore is the second busiest in the world by cargo tonnage, and is the busiest transshipment port in the world. The city-state is highly urbanized, with a population of 5.66 million. English is one of Singapore's official languages, and is the most spoken language, particularly in business. The country's GDP growth is driven mainly by exports and domestic demand. Singapore's GDP went down by 4.1% in 2020 amidst the coronavirus pandemic. However, the economy expanded by 7.6% in 2021, the highest rate in a decade. Since 2010, recorded a full-year expansion of 14.5%. However, growth has been slowing since then. Singapore's economic growth declined to 3.6% in 2022 and 1.2% in 2023. Looking ahead, the IMF expects Singapore's GDP to expand by 2.1% in 2024. Independence. In the 1950s, the region saw social unrest, which resulted in colonial powers deciding to relinquish some decision-making. With spurs of race riots, the colonial powers sought to empower and establish a formidable local government. With most of the unrest resulting from high unemployment, the local government was directed to solve this issue. The Economic Development Board was formed to empower the Singapore government in establishing, developing, and financing industrial undertakings, from services to goods. In 1955, a Singapore local legislative assembly, with 25 out of 35 members elected, was formed. Upon independence from Malaysia in 1965, Singapore faced a small domestic market and high levels of unemployment and poverty. 70% of Singapore's households lived in badly overcrowded conditions, and a third of its people squatted in slums on the city fringes. Unemployment averaged 14%, GDP per capita was $516, and half of the population was illiterate. Singapore's GDP per capita is among the highest in the region and globally. In 2023, it stood at $87,880. For 2024, the country's GDP per capita is expected to touch $91,730. In particular, global electronics demand will increase, benefiting Singapore's electronics and precision engineering clusters. By extension, growth in the wholesale trade sector is projected to strengthen on the back of an improvement in external demand for electronic components, telecommunications, and computers. If global interest rates start to moderate in 2024, the finance and insurance sector is also expected to post a modest recovery, Singapore's Ministry of Trade and Industry said. Singapore expects GDP growth in the US and the Eurozone to slow further in the first half of 2024, before picking up in the second half. Ministry of Trade and Industry also forecasts that China's growth would remain sluggish in 2024 and will be slower than in 2023, given sustained weakness in its property sector. Industry and trade. The main sectors of Singapore's economy are industry, services, and agriculture. However, agriculture's contribution to GDP is almost non-existent, and it provides only 0.03% of jobs to the workforce. As a highly industrialized economy, the country's industrial sector comprises 24.16% of the GDP and provides work for around 14% of the working population in 2021. Among the country's leading industries are electronics, petrochemicals, biomedical sciences, logistics, and transport engineering. Singapore's largest industry by far is the manufacturing sector, which contributes 25% of the country's annual GDP. In the third quarter of 2017, the manufacturing sector grew by 35%, with clusters like electronics and precision engineering benefiting from high demand. Close behind Singapore's manufacturing industry is its financial services industry, which has enjoyed stable growth due to Singapore's pro-business environment and political stability. Home to over 200 banks and a regional hub of choice for many global financial services firms, Singapore's financial services marketplace facilitates the transfer of knowledge, processes, technology, and skills between global, regional, and domestic markets. Other emerging industries that are making significant contributions to Singapore's economy include medical technology, aerospace engineering, clean energy, healthcare, and content development. Meanwhile, its service sector has the most significant GDP contribution at 70.85% and employs over 85% of Singapore's workforce. Trade, business services, transportation, communications, and financial services are the country's biggest service categories. Singapore's economy is currently ranked 16th in terms of total exports, with machinery and equipment, petroleum, chemical products, miscellaneous manufactured articles, and oil bunkers as its main export products. Its top export partners are China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, the US, Indonesia, and Japan. Meanwhile, the country is 16th in total imports, and its top import products are electrical machinery and equipment, mineral fuels including oil, machinery including computers, gems, and precious metals. China, Malaysia, the US, Taiwan, and South Korea are its main import partners. What natural resources does Singapore have? Located at the southernmost tip of the Malaysian peninsula, and with a land area smaller than that of New York, Singapore has no significant natural resources. However, this did not stop Singapore from developing itself into a regional hub for oil and gas, as well as a world leader in sustainable water solutions and projects such as New Water and the deep tunnel sewerage system. It has been said that Singapore's true natural resource is its people, and in a growing economy, this could not be more apt. As the economy grows, both local and non-local companies have access to a pool of an educated workforce and eventually a burgeoning consumer market. How developed is Singapore's infrastructure? As a commercial and military seaport during the British colonial era, Singapore's infrastructure has always been well developed. After Singapore gained independence in 1965, the post-colonial government went on to improve and expand the country's transport, communications, industrial, and housing systems. By land, Singapore is served by 9,310 kilometers of paved roads, 199.6 kilometers of rail, mass rapid transit and light rail combined, as well as island-wide bus, taxi, and rideshare operations. The transport system is efficient, safe, and punctual. By air, Changi International Airport is connected to 380 cities in 90 countries. It handles more than 7,000 weekly flights, transporting passengers and cargo worldwide. By sea, the Singapore port gives shippers a choice of over 200 shipping lines and access to some 600 ports in 123 countries. At any one time, there can be as many as 1,000 ships dock at the Singapore port, which makes it the busiest container port in the world. The telecommunications system is no less remarkable. Singapore has one of the world's highest mobile penetration rates at 1.5 mobile phones per person, and more than 90% of Singaporean households have internet access. In hotspots such as coffee chains, fast food restaurants, or Changi Airport, you can use an island-wide Wi-Fi service called Wireless at SG for free. Industrial and commercial facilities for businesses are also readily available in Singapore. The Jurong Town Corporation, JTC, has over 47.7 million square meters of strategically built industrial space that can be used to build factories, warehouses, and business parks. For commercial businesses, a choice of world-class high-rise and low-rise offices in the central business district and other parts of town are available. Tourism. Tourism plays an important role in the economy of Singapore. Singapore ranks among the most visited cities in the world. Visitor arrivals to Singapore have been increasing since the country's independence in 1965. As compared to a total of 99,000 visitors recorded in 1965, Singapore attracted approximately 19.1 million visitors in 2019 with receipts at $27.7 billion, according to preliminary figures by the Singapore Tourism Board. The total number of visitors increased by 3.3% from 2018, with an increase in arrivals and visitors from China, Indonesia, and Australia, while visitors from India and Malaysia dropped by 2% and 3% respectively. Tourism receipts increased 2.8% from 2018, with most visitors spending on sightseeing, entertainment, and gaming, $1,593 million, shopping, $1,457 million, accommodation, $1,439 million, and food and beverage, $649 million categories. In 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, visitor statistics in Singapore fell 85.7% and tourism receipts fell 82.6%, $4.8 million from 2019. A total of 2,700,000 visitors were recorded that year, which was the first time visitor statistics fell since the decrease in arrivals in 2014. Visitors coming into Singapore for short-term visits were also barred from entering and transiting from March 23, 2020 to October 19, 2021. In 2021, visitor arrivals further dipped to 330,059 visitors, which was an 88% decrease as compared to 2020. In December 2021, amid the spread of the highly transmissible COVID-19 Omicron variant, many countries still had travel restrictions, with some governments banning travel completely to curb transmission. Travel into Singapore for short-term visits was only resumed in September 2021 with the introduction of vaccinated travel lanes. Economy score. Singapore's economic freedom score is 83.9, making its economy the world's freest in the 2023 index. Its score is about the same as last year. Singapore is ranked first out of 39 countries in the Asia-Pacific region, and its overall score remains significantly higher than the world and regional averages. The foundations of Singapore's economic freedom are sustained by strong protection of property rights and effective enforcement of anti-corruption laws. Tax rates are competitive, and the regulatory environment is transparent. Openness to global commerce boosts productivity while facilitating the emergence of a more dynamic and competitive financial sector. World's unsinkable economy. Is it the right name for Singapore? What do you think? How did we do? If we missed something, please say in the comments. And if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.